today I'm going to be sharing all of the equipment I use to make sports videos like this. So everything I mentioned in this video is going to be linked in the description. Let's get right into it. Alright, so first up are my cameras. I use the Canon C70 as my A camera. Its dynamic range, image quality, internal NDs have all been amazing. I made a full video on why I bought this camera as well as a full rig breakdown. Go check that out if you're interested. But I just have loved this camera so far and I'm extremely happy with this purchase. My next camera is the Canon R6, which I'm using to film this video right now. This was my old main camera and it is still a beast. It takes amazing photos and still very high quality video. I just felt I needed to upgrade to a cinema camera because of my primarily video workflow. However, I still love this camera and I can attribute a lot of my career to this thing. My third camera, I guess you could call it, is the DJI Air 2S. This is my drone. I've loved it. I honestly don't use it as much as I should. I'm just not technically a registered FAA pilot, so I've just been using it for personal use. I am actually in the process of applying to become registered and I am looking forward to using this a lot. So next up are my lenses. My go-to lens is the Canon 70-200 f2.8 Mark III. This thing has been an absolute unit for me. I've been using it since 2020 and the image quality and reliability and weather sealing is just amazing. I could drop this thing and it's completely fine. It's on my camera 90% of the time for field sports. It's a great range, especially paired with my Canon C70, which turns it into a 105-300. I plan to keep using this lens for the foreseeable future and I would highly recommend this to anybody looking to get it. So my second main lens is the RF 24-70, which is on my camera right here. This lens is amazing. It's my most recent purchase. The image quality and autofocus coming out of this thing is amazing. I actually didn't have a mid-range zoom for a while. I knew that I needed one, especially when I'm covering events where I need a pretty versatile range. This lens was very expensive, but it's on my camera for most of the time when I'm filming indoor sports or events, so I knew I couldn't cheap out. I've been very happy with this so far, and I would also highly recommend it to anybody. And then my third lens is the EF 16-35 f2.8. This lens has been amazing for me as well. It allows me to get some great establishing shots and cooler B-roll shots. I love throwing this on my camera during warm-ups and getting some up close and personal shots of the athletes. And then finally, my last lens is the RF 35mm 1.8. That's filming this video right now. This lens is amazing. I got it for like 300 bucks used on eBay. The fact that it's a prime and it's 1.8 has been great for filming videos such as this. It's also a macro lens, so I'm able to get very close to things. It works great on a gimbal, especially paired with my R6 because it's so small and light. Overall, I'm very happy with this purchase. These four lenses essentially cover every range that I need. It gets me from 16mm basically to 300mm. I can't really justify any primes just because I shoot sports and I need that versatility. However, if I were to invest in some more lenses, I think my next option is going to be a fisheye just for some creative shots or an anamorphic lens because I've seen the images that those produce and they look very cool. So next up is my cage accessories. So I actually made a full video on this if you're interested in looking at a full breakdown, but just quickly, this is my C70 and the cage around it is the Condor Blue Canon C70 cage. I have it attached to a small rig base plate, which is attached to some small rig 15mm rods. On these rods, I have a small rig V-mount plate attached. This allows me to power my camera and my monitor off of just one battery. And then on the top, I have my Condor Blue top handle, which allows me to record just by pressing this button. And then on top of that handle, I have the Atomos Shinobi. This monitor has been pretty good. However, I do have some issues with it. Sometimes it will just not turn on. It also takes forever to turn on when it does turn on. I definitely need to upgrade, but I just haven't done so yet. But this rig has been extremely versatile for me. It's very functional. I can take it apart very quickly, put it back together, and is great for my workflow. So I also have this Tilta follow focus that I can attach to my rails and allow me to have more control over my manual focus. I can just slide it on like this and then have it here. So I can pull the focus by twisting this. This isn't always the most practical way for me to pull focus just because I often need to zoom and focus at the same time. However, if I'm in a situation where I know I want a lot of control over my manual focus, I will put this on. So for the batteries I use, I have two BPA 60 batteries that go right into my C70. I also have two of these GVM 95 watt V-mount batteries. These things have been amazing for me. I can film an entire game and come back home with still 70% left on this battery. It's powering both my camera and my monitor. I highly recommend these batteries. I also just have a handful of the Canon LPE6 batteries, which power my R6. So next up is my microphone. This is the Rode NTG3B. This thing is very expensive, however, it is waterproof and produces a very high quality sound. It's an XLR mic, which allows me to fully take advantage of the multiple recording options in the Canon C70. I was really procrastinating this purchase just because it's a microphone and it was very expensive, but I really wanted to level up my audio game, and the old mic that I was using, the Rode Video mic, was just not cutting it anymore. And then I also have the Rode Wireless Go, which is the lav mic I'm using right now. This thing has been great for your YouTube videos like this and interview setups. I highly recommend it to anybody looking to get a lav mic. And then next up for my SD cards, I use these ProGrade VHS2 V90 cards. These things were not cheap, but they allow me to get the max recording capabilities out of my C70. They've also been very reliable, and I can trust these knowing that they're not gonna fail on me. I also just have a bunch of the SanDisk 128 gigabyte UHS-1 cards. These were very reliable, but they're still a lot cheaper. I don't need the max write speed like I do for my C70, so I can throw these SanDisk ones into my R6 or into the B card slot of my C70 to record proxies. And then next up for stabilization, the setup I use most often is my Benro hi-hat paired with my Manfrotto 502 AH tripod head. That's on my camera right now. But this setup is amazing because it allows me to get low angles and stable footage while also being able to pick it up and move it around very quickly. I don't really have the ability to put a full tripod setup on a field and move it around quickly, so this hi-hat setup has been amazing for me. And then my other setup for stabilization is the Manfrotto 502 AH head paired with the legs. Those are also on my camera right now. This is better for if I need to get higher or do a legit tripod setup. These legs have been amazing and it's kind of all I need. And then for gimbals, I also have a Zhiyun Weebill S, although in all honesty, I think it might be broken and I don't use it that often. I probably need to upgrade to a DJI RS3 Pro or something for my C70, but in all honesty, I don't use gimbals that often, so I can't really justify that purchase. And then for lighting, I have the Amaron 100D, which is lighting me right now. This light was pretty cheap and it is amazing. There's no fan noise and it still creates pretty good light. I pair it with the newer softbox and it creates a great soft light source for me. I also have a Nanlite Pavo tube, which is great to add some color and unique lighting into different scenes. I have it right here, adding some blue to the corner, and that's been great for me to get some creative shots. My editing setup is currently the M2 MacBook Pro. I recently upgraded from the old Intel Mac that I've had for 3 years. That thing couldn't even open up my editing software without crashing, so this has been a life changer getting this. I pair this with the MX Master Keys, which is a Logitech keyboard, and this allows me to create some unique custom keyboard shortcuts for DaVinci Resolve and After Effects. This has saved me a lot of time in editing, as I can easily program specific shortcuts that I use very often, such as timer mapping, speed graph, and stuff like that. And then by far the best editing purchase I've made is the MX Master 3S mouse. This has many programmable buttons that I can program to speed up my editing workflow. I currently have 2 of the buttons set to ripple delete before and ripple delete after. This allows me to basically make selects with one hand without having a lot of motion, which just saved me so much time in the edit. And then I also have a bunch of lacy hard drives that I back up my footage to, and I have a 2 terabyte SanDisk SSD that I'm able to edit my projects onto. Then for some miscellaneous gear, this is the Tri-Lens. This basically allows me to attach multiple lenses to my hip and walk around with them. This has been great for on the field filming where I can bring multiple lenses with me and not have to go back to my bag every single time I want to change a focal length. My backpack is the Lowepro 450 AW2. This thing has been great. It carries around a lot of my gear pretty easily and it doesn't feel too heavy on my back. I also have a Pelican case that has been great for my traveling, and I know that it's going to protect my gear very well. And then one of my favorite little pieces of gear is these focus rings that I put on the front of my lenses. So I got these custom made from a website called followfocusgears.com, and these allow me to basically have more precision over my focus pulling. It creates a wider diameter on the lens, so basically it's less sensitive to my pulling. It also makes it easier for me to zoom and pull focus at the same time. I'd highly recommend you get these. It was only like, I think 35 bucks for each of them, and it has made my focus a lot smoother. And then I don't really use filters anymore just because I have the internal NDs on my C70, but I do have a Polar Pro variable ND filter, which was great when I needed to use it. And the last thing is I have the Swiss Army knife that I keep in my bag, and I carry it around with me everywhere. This has been very useful for tightening screws, cutting random stuff, and I'd highly recommend you have a tool like this in your bag. And then that's pretty much all the gear I use. So I know that this is a lot of stuff, but this has been accumulated over 3 years of me doing basically a full-time business. I really don't want this to be discouraging to anybody just starting out. You certainly do not need all of this equipment to make engaging videos. Everything I've bought is just an investment into myself and into my future. I'm extremely grateful to be in the position I am where I'm able to invest in myself like this. But my advice to you is if you're starting out, don't worry about all of the equipment and go out and make videos with what you do have. Let me know if you have any questions, and thank you guys for watching.